Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our interactive national workshop, Transforming Gender-Based Violence Support, Creative Approaches to Peer Leadership and Holistic Program Development. Our workshop is a key component of OCASI's Building Leadership Capacity project among non-status refugee immigrant communities to address gender-based violence. From now on, I will call it non-status refugee and immigrant women as NSRI women. Today, we aim to focus on innovative approaches and critical insights to improving service provisions for gender-based violence survivors who are NSRI women, with a special emphasis on peer leadership and holistic program development. Before we proceed to our workshop, we would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the peoples of Turtle Island. The sacred land on which we are gathered today has been a site of human activity for 15 years. We acknowledge that OCASI is situated on the traditional territory of the Wanda, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nations. The Toronto, also known as Toronto, is home to many Indigenous peoples, including First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. It is important for us to express our solidarity with Indigenous communities across Turtle Island who continue to experience colonial violence, including intersectional gender-based violence, sexual violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. It has been more than 5 years since the report on missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, and it is still important to reflect on what it means to do this work in that context. As critical race scholars and activists remind us, addressing colonial violence is a first step in healing across communities. As Shirin Razak noted, we cannot fully recognize the humanity of refugees, immigrants, or others if our society remains intensely structured by the ongoing inhumanity toward Indigenous peoples. So I would like to also give you a brief overview about our today's session. We will start with a short introduction. Nisaba, could you put the agenda, please? Thank you. About our project and the work we do. And then we will move into creative workshop and we will watch the warriors play that our peer champions they created. After the play, we have conversations featuring incredible speakers, our peer champions, who will share their unique perspectives based on the themes. After these sessions, we will have breakout rooms to open more conversations around those themes. And finally, we will come together in the general room for reporting back small groups discussions. I want to also give you some content warning for today. We are starting off with a content warning as a way to remind us that the topics we will be discussing in our sessions may be difficult, upsetting, or may trigger some painful emotions or memories. As this really is because we are talking gender-based violence, intimate partner violence, domestic violence today. Throughout the session, we want to make sure that we are able to have a safe and accessible space where we can all contribute, gain knowledge, skills, grow to be leaders, and lead initiatives. So please, if you are feeling overwhelmed and you need a break, you're more than welcome to step aside from your screens. We are also here to provide each other support. If you need to speak to someone, feel free to privately message to myself, Doris, Nisaba, or Sumu, and we can open up a separate breakout room where we will do our best to support you. We also want to ensure the safety and well-being of others in the call. We are urging you to please be mindful, respectful, and maintain privacy and confidentiality of others. At OCASI, whether these virtual spaces or in person, we stand firmly against all forms of racism, sexism, and xenophobia. Our goal is to foster a welcoming and respectful environment for learning and open dialogue conversations. We encourage everyone here to engage respectfully and remain mindful of the diverse views and experiences being shared today. And additionally, if you are more comfortable asking questions in a language other than English, which we call it colonial language, my colleague Nisaba speaks Assyrian, Arabic, and I speak Turkish. Metin, one of our OCASI member also, he speaks Kurdish and Turkish. Another member, Mahta, speaks Persian and French. Tarana speaks Russian and Azerbaijani, and Carolina speaks also Spanish. We don't want language to be a barrier. So please feel free to ask your question in whichever language you are most comfortable with. Lastly, we want to acknowledge life online has opened a lot of opportunities, as we know, to hear from and engage new voices and dialogue across actors who otherwise may not gather face to face. That's why we are here in this virtual workshop. But at the same time, we are conscious of the Zoom fatigue we all experience, as you know. We employ you to take care of yourself, engage and participate in ways that you see fit or best your needs. We encourage you to stay hydrated and feel free to listen to your body and take the breaks you need. Thank you. Now, I would like to also introducing myself and today's facilitators, and they are our project peer champions. For those you may not know me, my name is Berivan Kutlay Sarıkaya. I am one of the Community Education Coordinator, Initiative to Ending Gender-Based Violence at the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants, OCASI. Alongside of my work, I also teach on topics like intimate partner violence, domestic violence, women, war, and learning in the academy. My colleague Nisaba Hido, she is also here with us today, is the coordinator for the Gender-Based Violence Project, and we coordinate our National Building Leadership Capacity Project together. We have also OCASI capacity team members, thanks to them, and Bianca from IRIS to help us, to support us today. We don't have Shanti today, and I would like to also acknowledge her valuable work from IRIS too. I want to thank Doris Rajan, she is also here with us today, who has been the core of this project for almost more than 1.5 years. We will run today's workshop together, and thank you, Doris. Doris has worked over 20 years as a senior consultant in the nonprofit sector with a focus on gender-based violence, access to justice, the experience of racialization, refugee, immigrant, and indigenous issues, and disability justice. She is the managing director of the New Society Institute and formerly the IRIS Institute. I'm sorry, Doris, I'm still calling IRIS sometimes, just forgive me. Doris, in her work, has designed numerous international, national, and regional community-based social development and applied research projects, and has authored a number of research reports and community-designed training resources. As I mentioned in the agenda, we have peer champions today. They are also facilitator of our workshop today. I would like to thank them again and for their valuable support and also feedback and making this happen today. Monica Larios, she's our peer champion from Edmonton region. Tuğçe Alemdar is from Toronto region. Carolina Leite, she is from Toronto region peer champions. Jaslyn Narula from Vancouver, Amal Oak from Ottawa, and Sharvin Bakay from Vancouver. Welcome you all. I want to start also, I want to just a little bit just remind us the key objectives of today before we start. We will discuss and understand the role of peer champions who are non-status, refugee, and immigrant women, also gender-based violence survivors, in shaping effective and respectful gender-based violence service provision. We will also explore creative approaches to fostering healing and support for gender-based violence survivors through community engagement. And finally, we will explore and identify and also discuss and share the strategies for improving gender-based violence programs through holistic and intersectional perspectives. I would like to also give you a little bit about the project that we have been conducting almost for 4 or 5 years. And our workshop emerged from the work of the national project, building leadership capacity to address gender-based violence against NSRI women across Canada. This is a 5-year project funded by Women and Gender Equality as part of Canada's strategy to prevent and address gender-based violence. Led by OCASI, this national project steering committee includes a network of service providers like you, organizational leaders, community advocates, workers, frontline workers, academic researchers with regional partners across Edmonton, Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. As a project, we organize and unite towards working together to improve and ensure that NSRI women who have experienced gender-based violence have access to support and services towards healing. Working towards this, we believe that NSRI women who have experienced gender-based violence are inherently powerful and resilient leaders. We also believe that NSRI women who have experienced gender-based violence should be shaping and influencing both local and national conversations on addressing gender-based violence. We strive to build and support equitable ways in which NSRI women who have experienced gender-based violence are not left out of the conversations. Our work is to be guided by the voices of NSRI women, building the leadership capacity of NSRI women. And what makes help seeking for NSRI women who have experienced GBV so difficult, as most of you also, you're aware about that. Common structural and systemic barriers include fear of criminal justice system, fear of deportation, lack of affordable, safe, permanent housing, fear of social service institutions that may require personal, intense information about the survivors. As allied organizations across the settlement sector supporting NSRI women, we know NSRI women face multiple barriers. As allied organizations, we also know that if our work centers NSRI women, we can improve and strengthen our everyday organizational practices in order to support survivors seeking services. So we also strive to build strong national network among service providers, organizational leaders, community members, advocates, and non-status refugee and immigrant women to strengthen our ongoing work, unfortunately endless work, addressing gender-based violence against immigrant women. Building the leadership capacity to do community advocacy. This is our goal. We know the time for this work coming together is now. Thank you. Now I would like to pass over Doris Rajan. She will also talk about the creative workshops and where did this idea came from. Now, Doris, stage is yours. Thank you. Is Doris here? Doris? Wait a sec. We need to check, I think, some connection issues.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Sorry about that. Did have some issues there. Thank you so much, Baravan. I won't spend too much time talking about the workshop process because I know that you all want to meet the peer champions and get into a dialogue about this issue yourself. But I think why we wanted to share with you this approach that we used. And as Baravan said, it was over quite a few months, I would say just under a year, that the group met monthly, sometimes twice a month when we got closer to the end. And the idea was to use a creative approach and working together to talk about the issues of concern to survivors of gender-based violence. And what that meant was like kind of going beyond this idea, like, getting out of this conceptualization of victims and that, they're going to get together and talk about the violence in their lives. It was more about creating a space and the women themselves working with us, just providing supports and facilitating a process, would decide for themselves what they wanted to talk about, what they wanted to do. So in this case, we used, as we said, an arts-based workshop, and we wanted it to be looking in the area of performance art. So that was the art that we're working in. And the purpose was, as it says here, to share experiences, learn ways to express your thoughts and feelings, and then ultimately create a performance piece. Next slide, please. And it was 20 weeks long. It was about 1.5 hours per session. And there was a couple of things that we were talking about and learning about was, we explored acting, writing, music in terms of how to tell your story, and then to create a performance presentation, as I said. Next slide. And what we always did at the beginning is we made time for the women to check in, to talk about their day, to just kind of not jump right into the content. We took the time to, see how people were feeling before we started kind of doing the work. And we also always did a checkout. Next slide. So essentially, this is how it was broken up. We did overview and introductions. Then we spent about 10 classes actually learning about writing and presentation and performance. But also, really important here was an opportunity for the group to connect, to meet, to build relationships among each other. And that's certainly what would happen. And I'm sure they'll talk more about that themselves. And then we spent the 6 weeks really intensely working on the performance piece, which you'll see later on. And we rehearsed, and I just wanted to quickly share some examples of some exercises that we use. So the first one was, what we would do is, to try to move our thoughts out of our body or into our body, I should say. So we're thinking about about a word, and they could pick a word that they wanted to kind of talk about, why they picked that word, what it represents today for them, anything they wanted to say. Then they would write it down and then they would share it. And then it says, I'm going to say your name, and then you just quickly say your one word with no explanation, no context. And next slide. And I think we did the one word exercise just to say, we did that every week. And then at the end, we kind of did a collage of all the words that were said. And it really kind of said a lot. It was a very more visceral way of kind of summarizing the different moods and the journey that we were on with the workshops. And then we did some acting lessons, exercises. And this is just an example of one where someone was to, get a phone and think of a character and give them a reason to make a phone call. And then just to act out listening, doing some speaking, but really it was about listening, as we were saying. And just to be connected to how you express yourself in a nonverbal way. And next slide. And then we did some scene studies. So people were given, each of the women were given a role or a character to play in a scene. So they worked on that and they presented that. And that again was able to get them to get connected with their emotions and whatever those emotions were, and to be able to express it. And next slide. And then the story development, after we kind of spent about 10 weeks just talking about the craft and talking about the things the women wanted to talk about, then we kind of narrowed down, okay, now let's develop a story. So, the question was, I think that we developed as a group was what uh, the women wanted to say to the public and service providers. Like, what were the messages? And you'll see when you see the play, the messages are pretty clear. And we had a lot of discussion and then taking some of the things that were expressed and developing a script. And we used acting and movement and techniques to bring that story to life. And next slide. And okay, now we're at the stage to see what we came up with.
Any sound if we're supposed to hear sound.
Yeah, there's
there's
no sound. Do you want to restart it? And you might have to put it fairly loud just because of the way it was recorded.
And it could be a setting in the Zoom that in the audio that might need to be able to pick it up. Just definitely.
Can you hear now?
Going forward, Al.
Yes,
or
yes.
Ma,
Want to go back, Miss Saba?
Just give me 1 second. First of all, let me just say how very sorry I am to hear about what you've gone through. It is just heart-wrenching. But your strength and your resilience is amazing. It's amazing. So going forward, my main concern is your immediate physical and emotional well-being. Here we use what is called a trauma-informed response, which means that I am here to educate and to empower and to be sensitive to your culture. I want to hear more about the violence that men from your community enact. But first, let's talk about me for a few minutes, okay? I graduated from the University of Carleton School of Social Work, and I got my master's.
Oh my God! If she continues to say empowerment, resilience, strength again, I'm gonna scream.
Oh my goodness, where did the time go? Your hour is up. Oh, sorry.
Hey Aisha, how was your counseling session? Well, at least she feels better about herself. She started to talk so much, I was feeling sorry for her.
Oh, come on. Did she enlighten you how strong and resilient you are?
Or were you a victim today?
Oh my God, this is what pisses me off. These trauma sessions never work well. Also, they are so judgmental. Like here we are obligated to prove that what we have been through. Also, if you try to fight through the legal system, it doesn't work if you are too powerful. If you go to the counseling sessions, then you need to be powerful to start the healing process. But as if like healing is possible without justice.
Yeah? Once you're strong, then suddenly you're conniving, clever. It becomes a negative thing. They expect you to be a victim, but if you stand up for yourself, then you're sly.
Like a fox.
Hey, listen, I may have been crying for 23 hours at my house, but once I walk my ass into the court or one of their services, I walk with my 1 hour strength because we ain't soft.
So true. And oh, this is funny. Listen up. So my ex is white, right? But all of these people assume my ex is Latin because after all Latin men are violent. Like macho, grandote, fuertote, right?
I wrote a letter to my sister. She asked me how I was doing. Azerbaijan, the children are all doing well and are now very much Canadian. You asked me how I'm doing. If you want me to be honest, I will tell you that I'm not that great. There is a quiet, polite racism here, especially when you use services after you experience violence. It is a never-ending process. You wait and wait in the courts, housing, etc. Your court case gets closed, yet nothing came out of it. Where is the justice here? The therapy they provide, it doesn't help. I tell you, Azerbaijan, you think Canada is a certain way, and then you come here and get shocked. It is anything but easy. They say the violence you're experiencing, it is your culture, and they expect us to be grateful for anything we get here. I'm not happy with what I have here. Try to explain this to Canadians, whether they are white or brown or black. They still don't get it. Look at the woman life freedom movement for over a year now. They're still fighting. You can torture the girls, women, yet they're just getting better and better and stronger. You cannot stop them now. We come from places where we have to fight. We didn't tolerate violence and injustice. There. Why would I tolerate that here?
Yes. Even if our governments torture us, we remain steadfast. These Canadian women need to learn how to be powerful.
You know, these people here, they don't really seem to be happy to me. They talk to you nicely, but they actually seem sad.
I know. I want them to show how they feel, to find joy and happiness in anything, to fight, to show. Like the other day, I took my son to see the Barbie movie, and he and I were crying so loudly, but no one else is crying. And he asked me, Mom, why are we the only ones crying? And I said, well, because Canadians don't know how to express how they feel, how they truly feel.
Oh, but if you are a survivor or a victim or whatever they want to call us, then the helpers jump in. Are they really helping? We are bouncing around immigration, housing, counseling, children's aid, legal services.
They don't seem to realize we also have joy in our lives. They just give us places to be sad. Hey ladies, guess what? It's sad yoga time.
Oh, you beautiful women! Are we all set to stretch and release our minds of the pain and suffering you live with every day of your life? Remember, you are safe here and strong and empowered.
Don't forget resilient.
Absolutely! Absolutely. Now, Virabhadrasana, or for those of you not familiar with the original Sanskrit, warrior pose. Why? Because
We're all warriors.
oh, exactly! Oh my God, I love this group. Most women actually hold a lot of trauma in their pelvic center. Release that beautiful, juicy movement.
How do you look like after a fight? We are in a battle. This is what they don't realize. These non-profit government agencies that are supposed to protect our rights and equity, what are they really doing to have those rights recognized? I mean for all of us, like white, brown, immigrant, disabled. There's no real protest or a movement in this country, except from the indigenous people, that is.
Advocate, if I have learned anything here, is that nobody's gonna fight my battle.
You need to tell society what you need. That's the only way you can really be happy. No more fake smiles. We need things. Proper maternity benefits, free education. Nobody fights in this country, like really fights.
If you don't fight, you cannot get anything. Like we're used to getting, what we want through fighting.
Hope is seeing a happy future for the next generation. If I'm fighting something, it is not just for me that I fight. We are fighting for our children and other women too.
We have been fighting from day one. We are not victims or fragile creatures. We came here to continue the fight.
Again, we have always been fighting.
You can be both resilient and you can suffer at the same time.
Next thing.
You are strong when you cry loudly.
You are strong when you stand silent.
You are strong when you cry in the arms of your child.
We can teach you about strength and empowerment.
Talk less and listen more.
We can tell you how to really fight.
We will do that for you.
Thank you. Every time I watch this, Doris, and all peer champions, I have goosebumps. And Doris, maybe you would like to also mention about the lessons learned through our workshop, then I will move on to our presentations.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think some of the things just related to the actual implementation of the workshop process is that, you know, don't make the assumption that women are going to want to automatically join the group. Like, there has to be active recruitment, and you know, I think it has to be really clearly messaged what the benefits are for the participants. Like, why would they get involved? What's in it for them, I think, is very important. And also recognizing that people that are dealing with trauma that have a number of systemic barriers like low income, single parenting, et cetera, and just, you know, navigating complex systems as newcomers and migrant people have busy lives, and it's particularly changing lives. And so any program needs to be flexible and always include time for open discussion, because after all, that's the real point of it. This is to benefit the participants involved in the program. And the individual who convenes and facilitates the group is something that's really critical to pay attention to in terms of building trust. And it should be, you know, someone that the participant knows, but also can relate to. And so there's a number of different skills that are important when selecting who should facilitate.
Thank you, Doris.
You're welcome.
We also created a toolkit, and we will also send you all the participants after this session. And Doris, based on this warrior play and also feedbacks and insights of the peer champions, that the toolkit also for service providers, how they can also implement these kinds of programs for gender-based violence survivors and using this creative approach. And we will also share with you later on. And Nisaba, can you share on the screen the link? No, the toolkit, I mean.
I'm sorry, do you want me to share?
Okay, I see. We can just send all the participants and you will have it later on. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doris, again. And thank you all just joining us and watching together. And last year, all peer champions, they performed the warrior in our gender-based violence conference in November 2023 in Toronto. It was a live performance, and still that I told you, goosebumps. I don't remember how many times I watched them, and still those words just affect me a lot. And as I mentioned, the toolkit, now we have also presentations, and we have teams based on all the peer champions, insights, lived experiences, and also their thought and ideas about the gender-based violence, how they experience gender-based violence, and also seeking help, support toward healing in Canada. Now we have 3 teams. These teams also have sub-teams as well, and all peer champions have some thoughts and ideas they would like to also continue. Now we will start what service providers need to know, and then we will go on effective and respectful practice, and lastly, the program improvements. These are the key themes, and we developed through our in-depth discussions, not only, you know, based on the play. As Doris mentioned, 20 weeks workshops we have been together with peer champions, and every workshop, it was extremely intense, and that's why I would say their lived experiences really played a crucial role, helping us to understand what service providers need to know and how to implement effective practices, and what program improvements are needed to support survivors of gender-based violence who are also NSRI women. And also, I mentioned in the beginning, we will present these teams with the valuable contributions of our peer champions who are also facilitate the breakout rooms as well. And now I leave it to Carolina. She's going to talk about the what service providers need to know, and then Sharvin will continue for the first team. Carolina, stage is yours.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we hear you.
you. Am I on camera? Oh, yeah, I'm on camera now. Hey. Hi. Well, yeah, thanks so much for the amazing introduction, everyone. Doris and Bedivan, it was a pleasure to, work with you during this time. And thank you for making space for all of our emotions, because the process of creating, the piece, as we Doris mentioned, that it was all inspired by our very inputs and things. And so it was a emotional process, but yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I, as a artist myself and creative, I do believe there's a healing power in making art, poetry, storytelling, music, and things. I'm sure everybody have had that moment when you feel deep in your feelings and your emotions, and you play that one song, or you read that one book, that one piece of poetry that brings you some sort of peace and healing in the moment. You feel understood. And also, yeah, I believe there is a lot of healing powers in art and community. So for my subject, No Healing Without Justice, we have talked about finding. Can you guys hear me well? Is it good?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, perfect. So No Healing Without Justice basically stands for, in my perspective, is that there is a need for justice, and I would call it responsibility, not necessarily punishment. I think for both parts, anyone involved in anything, even personally, your own individual experiences and etc. I think there is some level of facing responsibilities and being able to process what has happened, not just move away, not look back and pretend it never happened. Then you never get closure, you never get clarity, you never get to understand what happened to you. And that's not going to leave you, that's not going to leave the your subconscious if you don't take the time to look into what justice looks like for you. If justice looks like being heard, for example, and have that response, like, yeah, somebody does care about how I feel, somebody does care about how this made me feel. So it's also a way to help out the process of clarity, understanding, processing what actually happened, embrace the truth, and then take our own part of responsibility on things. As well, because I also don't believe in just plain punishment. Like, I could tell that I would like to see all the the people that perpetuate evil out there to be quote unquote punished, but I also believe that we're designed to, by nature, or if you want to call it by God, however you believe, that we have been designed to support one another. We are codependent. I don't see humans as individual parts. I see us as part of a whole system, and we're designed to mutual support. So I believe in that, and so I would call it responsibility and clarity instead of calling it punishment. I think it's about that maturity to look at things, face, mirror, and address whatever has to be addressed. And that conversation for us was very, very important, because it's a way to bring about our truth feelings, in terms of how it feels to navigate not just the space of abuse and unfortunate circumstances, but also the other steps that it entails, like our relationship with the system, our relationship with the service providers, our relationship with our community. So that was a very honest dialogue in terms of how it feels to be on this side of the situation. And I really do hope that, everyone could kind of vibe with us on this one. And yeah, so this is also part of understanding our context, because it has to do with it's sour, respectful, entertaining, and in a way, fun way of having those hard, strange, uncomfortable conversations. And so for that, I also have to thank Art so much. And I have to thank Doris so much for helping us synthesize those ideas in a way that we could open up a safe space for one another and also inspire other people to be conscious about what's actually going on based on our experience. In the beginning, it was kind of hard for me because once you are an advocate, you know, it's because you have some sort of familiarity with the subject. And it's not something that we say with pride, right? Like, I've been there. This is, you know, you don't say that with pride. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for having the opportunity to empower other people and help raise awareness. And this has been a really important part of my own personal healing process. So much so that I have never stopped, you know, making music, making art. Tomorrow I have a poetry session here in my friend's house. I have curated a female-led Afro-Brazilian drumming group as part of it. And I had the pleasure to also perform that same day with my drumming group for OCASI. And ever since, we have been playing for in other places. We recently played for the 35th anniversary with Salvation Army. It was really fun. And music continues to heal me. Storytelling, poetry, community support continues to heal me. It's not a straight line. Nothing is a straight line. It's not like you begin your healing process and then tomorrow everything is going to be perfect, or it's going to feel like it never happened. No, it's ongoing. And we have setbacks, we have ups and downs, and you have to give yourself some grace as well to also understand you in the process, but have that sort of like deep empathy for the person beside you now that you understand a little bit better of how it feels to be under the skin of a survivor. As a service provider, if you are one, as a community member, if you are one, or a family or a friend or anyone, I think it's important to practice kindness and understand that we never fully understand what is going on with the other person. So, you know, making space to hear, understand, be curious about it. My therapist says this a lot, like, be curious about your feelings, be curious about others' feelings so you can have a better understanding of what it is, what it means to be, you know, in communities and etc. So yeah, I would say thank you so much for making space, Doris, Betty Von, Nisaba, the OCASI team overall, and my, you know, my peer champions, my friends that have also facilitated and made the environment so enjoyable, so enjoyable. We would laugh, we would cry, we would share, we would quiet. Like, I'm so grateful for, you know, experience the freedom to just bring my whole self to the table, however is it that I felt. And this is just it's just the beginning, right? I hope we can continue to spread the awareness and continue keep up the good work and be good peers for our communities, and, you know, continue to advocate for the humanitarian causes, because I personally want to continue having hope for the future of humanity. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Carolina. Sharvi?
Yes. I think Carolina almost said whatever I wanted to say. Yeah, I really enjoyed her talk. It was completely, I don't know what to say. It really brought my emotions back of the time we were playing, we were talking to each other. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Carolina. But I'll do my part as first. I would like to thank OCASI for giving me the opportunity to work with this dedicated team on matters impacting non-status refugee and immigrant women. I'm also grateful to be part of the collective working to improve outcomes. Recognizing that everyone's experience is unique and that diverse groups have varying needs, especially when dealing with GBV, gender-based violence, is at the core of our conversation today. It takes a lot for anyone to reach out for help. As we'll discuss, there are additional challenges for NSRI women. To start, the service provider needs to assure the client that the conversation is confidential. Also, she hears her, believes her, and will stand for her. Ensure that she can have justice. The first thing to be considered is why she left her country of origin. Forced immigration, oppressive cultural practices, war, political issues, trafficking, or sponsorship, family reuniting, better future. Knowing this gives the service provider a chance to learn what extra challenges she might have faced before her journey to Canada. Our goal should be to acknowledge the diversity and offer culturally sensitive, trauma-informed assistance to those we reach. I think there are 3 additional considerations when serving NSRI women: access barriers, cultural factors, and personal factors. Access barriers are around knowing what is available and being able to reach it. Not knowing or not being sure about what the laws and their rights are in Canada can stop someone reaching out. Lack of language skill prevents many from learning about and being able to reach services. Non-status and refugee women are more likely to experience a language barrier. Non-status people and refugees don't have access to the same services as general public. They're also concerned about causing trouble while their situation is unsure and worry about being deported. To remove access barriers, service providers can educate people during their settlement process in their native language and make information easily accessible in digital and print form in cultural and community centers they would interact with. Service providers can further educate support groups about the availability of these services. Cultural and social factors affect what people find acceptable, what rights they give themselves, and how they react. It also affects how they fight for their rights. We all carry baggage from our past. For many, especially non-status and refugee people, that baggage is overwhelmed by trauma. Cultural sensitivity is exceedingly important if the person is also dealing with gender-based violence. Many don't trust government organizations because of past experience back home. This makes reaching out for help difficult. Many have experiences of oppression based on gender, race, sexual orientation, religion, so they may believe they don't have or they don't deserve the right for complaint. In many cultures, girls are raised to submit and boys to dominate. In many cultures, talking about what happens at home is considered taboo. The limit of what is culturally acceptable mixed with feelings of shame and failure prevent many from coming forward. To ease cultural barriers, it's important for service providers to not make assumptions about what is or should be acceptable or easy. Ask the person what feels right and possible and work with them on steps that will get them the help they need. Using cultural guides and reaching out to people who may share backgrounds is helpful, but it's important to remember that people who live in Canada aren't all the same. So we can't assume people from another country fully understand each other's cultural context. The last thing I'm going to talk about is personal considerations that impact the decision to ask for and accept help. The emotional weight of moving to a new home and the difficult journey many face in addition to the gender-based violence which itself may have been going on for a while, affects the person's mental health. Dealing with complex trauma affects both the ability and willingness to ask for and accept help. In this case, the service provider should be able to bring the conversation forward, but at the same time, not crossing the lines. Considerations and other priorities, such as children and their safety, pressure from friends and family, and even religious teachings, prevent women from questioning the abusive person and abusive behavior and asking for justice. In any circumstance, to provide meaningful assistance and reduce barriers for help, we need to meet people where they are. It's important for service providers to plan and train their team with considerations for factors that disproportionately affect NSRI women. Know how to engage and sustain the relationship, help with transitions, and connect them with culturally appropriate resources. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sharvin. I think it's totally related to most of us. We are also here to here as a service providers, and we can be also some, gender-based violence survivors here who are also coming from war zones. And that's why we would like to emphasize all the time we have multiple identities as also experiencing systemic violence here in Canada and adding up to our pre and post-migration experiences and then seeking help. Thank you so much that you're also, the ideas and thoughts and lived experiences definitely related to us. And those women's life didn't start in Canada. That always we need to keep in mind. Thank you, Sharvin. Now we have the next themes, effective and respectful practice, how we can ensure provide effective and respectful practice. And we would like to continue with Jaslyn. Jaslyn, our peer champion from Vancouver.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharvin and Carolina. So continuing this conversation about how there can be more effective practices in place. The point that I want to highlight is about not asking survivors to repeatedly recount their experience. Because what happens is, first of all, we do understand that there are different avenues for assistance and for all sort of help that the government provides us. Uh, so s- so which also means that we have to, sometimes have to be moved from one service to another, which also in effect makes us, we have to keep repeating what we went through to different people at different times. So when we are asked to move from one service to another, it is more appropriate or helpful to speak with workers who have expertise. While the help is much appreciated, it is extremely taxing to repeat the incident day after day to multiple people. It actually leads to reliving the incident with every passing moment. And if there is a way to have some sort of a central record keeping of the highlights and can be shared among the network, that would help in reducing the time to receive help and also not to be repetitive at our end. So it can be useful to everybody. If the social workers have an access, of course, with consent, stating that, this is the issue that the person has gone through and this is what they might help. Because when the network, they know that, this is not what they do and this is something that somebody else can help with. So just leaving a brief note on what the experience is, what the survivor has gone through, would really be helpful, uh, because it's extremely, like I said, miserable to repeat every single time. And sometimes what we do is when we are talking to one particular worker and then we move to the other, sometimes we miss our own information because there is a lot of emotion involved, and sometimes we cut it short, and sometimes we go in detail with one person than the other. So there are multiple errors that can happen in that, but the main point is that it also makes us relive the event over and over again. So that would be really helpful. And the next thing that I want to talk about is, there needs to be some sort of a transparency about what we can expect out of the avenues that are provided. We need more clarity on what can be really expected of the service and how it will conclude. Many a times, at least I experienced that the worker would listen. They are surely empathetic, but mostly they try, they're just trying to listen to you and maybe not um, disrupt our emotions and how the system is going to work, how much help would be provided, or when it will be provided. They're surely being sensitive to our vulnerable state and trying to hold back how complex it is to really receive help. So, in my head, I have this expectation that my issue has been listened to, and I would assume that the issue will be resolved. But in real time, there wouldn't be any solution, or the solution is another point of contact, or it has to go through other hoops to even start expecting any help at all. So that would be really helpful, if the workers are being very clear when we visit them, that this is what you're going to receive from us and this is how much time it might take. Or, if they can't help, that would also be appreciated, because sometimes we leave one particular avenue thinking, okay, I have told my information to this person, they seem very empathetic and they are going to help me. But in real time, in reality, they'll not be the person who's going to help you, or it's going to come from somewhere else, or it's going to take more time. So there is no clarity provided. And when you are in that emotion and when you are in that stage, it's very confusing as it is. It's very complex. It's so chaotic, and you're trying to manage our emotions. So a bit of clarity there would be much appreciated. Yes, that's all I would like to say.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Thank you so much. Tuğçe?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me here, for providing this space. So yeah, I mean, as you know, I've been volunteering in OCASI, I think for 2 years now. And I'm currently working as in Newcomer Center of Peel, and I'm thanking them for providing this opportunity to me today as well, because actually this is my work time, but they gave me this opportunity to talk to you today. So I've been thinking about everything, how I can talk about this, because I am a survivor, but at the same time, I'm actually a service provider right now. So I am actually in this, again, the intersections of identities, or as we always talk about. So I was like, how I can make this clear, because, now I am working in the field and I know that we've been through so many trainings and we keep talking about the same things over and over again. Yeah, we know how to provide support, like trauma informed, resilient. And many of the times we think that we learn through this many times, so many trainings. But so, I mean, as a person, I am here. So I want to talk about myself a bit. I am from Turkey. I'm a refugee. I was a refugee in Canada. Right now I have a PR, but at the incident time, I was a protected person in Canada. I studied philosophy during my master's degree. So, I experienced gender-based violence, but during my master's degree, while I was working, I was a feminist activist in Turkey at the same time. And during my grad years, I was actually working on philosophy of emotions and gender fluidity.
And I was reading Sarah Ahmed, I was reading Judith Butler, you know, like, I mean, in terms of theory, when it comes to feminism, I had everything. And I came from Turkey to here. I love art, I love reading, I love dancing, I love, you know, I am all these things. So with this start, I want to share with you a case of a client. Can we share it, or should I read it? I don't know what we can do. Is it possible to share it, or like? I can just read it.
I think you shared with Nisaba, right? Maybe we
Yes,
can.
I shared it.
I think too, Jeff, you can read it, but then I'll state it in the chat after once it's enabled for participants.
Okay. Thank you so much. So imagine a client, okay? So I'm gonna read you a case of a client. And I want to just like reflect on this because, you know, many of the service providers, when you read this case, probably you will have so many ideas about that, right? Like now the client is here. I know what am I gonna do, right? So the client is a 30-year-old woman from Turkey, currently a protected person and a university student. She experienced gender-based violence 2 weeks ago. At the time, she was living at her ex-partner's place.
Can you read a little bit slower, please?
Sure. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So the client is a 30-year-old woman from Turkey, currently a protected person and a university student. She experienced gender-based violence 2 weeks ago. At the time, she was living at her partner's place, but the arrangement was unofficial and unrecorded. After the incident, she had to immediately move out and is now staying with a friend, paying $800 per month unofficially. She receives OSAP, is unemployed, and is in her 3rd year of school. In the meantime, the school has just started. She could not participate in her classes due to the incident during the 1st week of the school. There is concern that her perpetrator may be able to guess where she's staying, as the friend she is living with is a mutual acquaintance, mutual friend. So when you read this case, you know, there's a 30-year-old woman from Turkey, a protected person, a university student, receiving OSAP, not working, and any of these places that she lives is unofficial. There is no record of that. So she cannot, what we can do, you know, like if this person comes to you as a client, what would you do? I'm sure there are so many ideas. I can give you so many things, like, you know, how much OSAP she's receiving, you know, if she's not safe, like immediately we should find a house for her, how we can find, maybe we can provide a scholarship, maybe we can write her professors and like, you know, maybe she can take a break from school, but it's not an option. Does she have a support system in Canada if she can stay somewhere? We can all ask these questions, right? But also what bothers me here, there's something that bothers me here. We have ideas, we want to help, but we don't know who this person is, right? She's just a case here. We don't know if she has emotions, how she's feeling, you know, or I don't know. This hurts me still. It's so bad. So she may speak English, but maybe she's struggling speaking English because of the trauma. We don't know that. We don't know if the perpetrator is a white man or not. I can tell you that in this case, many of the service providers came to me with the option of stopping the school, take a break. I'm like, I cannot take a break. I need that OSAP money and I need to finish the school. I'm not give up from my life. So give me another option. Many of the service providers assume that my partner is a Turkish man. He was a white man. He was a lawyer, actually, in Canada, like literally in the legal system. And honestly, what I was thinking about that yesterday, I was thinking about that because I was reading the news in Turkey, the woman's situation. When I was in that case, when I was in that experiencing that incident, I wanted to be in Turkey. Can you imagine? This is a hell for women. I said that I wish this happened to me in Turkey. Why did I say that? Like, I was thinking about this because honestly, like, when you check the legal system, Canada provides, we assume that Canada provides more opportunities compared to Turkey. In Turkey, maybe I would die, of course. So I was thinking about my clients. I thought about my clients. I put myself in that client chair as a service provider and thought about that. Like, what is the difference? I am working with newcomers right now, and newcomers, they are coming here, as you know, extreme trauma, right? Like they experience horrible things. They come here, but somehow you see improvement with them, right? Like after a certain point, you start seeing that, you know, they start finding a house, they continue their life. So there is a difference between being just a newcomer and being a survivor, IPV survivor as an NSRI woman. What is that difference? I was thinking about this. The difference is, I can tell you that it is hope. Because the person who flee from that hell, actually, they are hopeful. A place is changing. They are looking for safety. They know that there is something, you know, safe there. What about NSRI women who are coming from hell? You know, they are already coming from hell. They fought there. They are coming here with the hope that they are going to survive in Canada. And then they experience gender-based violence with a place that they have no support, no help from anyone. I'm sorry. There is no hope. At that point, because you are running away from somewhere and you're experiencing gender-based violence, it's a place where you assume that you are going to be safe and still you are not safe. So the difference between those clients, the clients, gender-based violence, women who experience gender-based violence, NSRI women, they don't have hope. So how we can make them more hopeful? What we can do for that? Why did I think that way, that I wish this happened to me in Turkey? Because I know that I have activist friends there, you know, that they are gonna, I know that an army of women I could have found to support me while I was in Turkey. In Canada, there are service providers, so many of them, but I didn't find that support in a way that I felt like, you know, I was judged. People don't know who I am. You know, I actually read all this. I know everything in theory. I am a smart woman. I am educated. Like, you cannot, I am just a case in front of them. So this is why it is important to understand who this person is, where this person is coming from, and how I can make them hopeful. They need to feel hopeful. They need to feel that they are supported. You know, there's a woman with me by my side is going to support me. I'm so sorry. So yeah, that's all I will say. Thank you so much for listening me. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And yeah, Monica.
Thank you, Tuğçe, for sharing your personal experiences with us today. Unfortunately, I think if we have more time, we need to talk about more. And also, thank you also mentioning about the hope and also seeking solution in the community. I think that's the huge difference that we want to be also in our back home, even we know the situation in our back home as well. Thank you so much again, Tuğçe. It's so valuable for us. Monica? And unfortunately, we are also running late a little bit. That's why I want you, Tuğçe. I'm so sorry about that. Monica, are you here?
Yes.
Yeah, you have just 5 to 7 minutes. I'm really sorry about the time constraints because we would like to open conversations in our breakout rooms, and I know listening to you, it's extremely valuable, and then we can just be here, I think, end of the day. Thank you again.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Tuğçe, and thank you, everyone. Well, I want to introduce myself again. I'm Monica, and I want to start with a quote that says, "There is no such thing as a single issue struggle because we don't know live single issue lives." It's from Audre Lorde. As you know me, you know I love quotes, and I'm always saying them. Now, I want to start with an activity for all of you, and you probably did it before in the past. If you can think of one word, only one word to describe yourself. Maybe you did it at school, maybe you did it in a party, maybe you did it in an organization, just one word. And now that you think of that word, I know we cannot share it. I don't know if it was easy for you, because for me, it took me, I don't know, minutes or a long time to find a word. Why? Because it's, for me, it would be almost impossible to define myself only with one word. Why? Because we are humans and we are full of complexities. We are full of contradictions. We have many identities and many definitions. I'm going to use myself as an example. Many people can say that I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I'm a Latin American, I'm bilingual, I am academically educated, I'm employed, and I'm a volunteer. So far, it looks good, right? But then you see the other side, and you can see that, yes, I am a woman. So that already puts me into a vulnerable place, and also into a minority group. Sorry. Oh, I lost it. Well, I'm a woman. Also, I have disabilities, non-visible disabilities. I have violence-related experiences. I am a middle-aged woman. I am immigrant, and because of that, I have an accent. Even when I'm bilingual, I am an accent. And even when my accent has nothing to do with my intelligence, I already have to prove double or harder than other people. Also, because I'm an immigrant, and my name, just my name, puts me into a vulnerable place and into an inferior place than other people. Just for looking a job, it was harder for me because many employers, as soon as they saw my name, they were like, nope, sorry, next one. Also, I am a mom, but I'm a single mom. So you can see all of these start intertwining, and that's called intersectionality. I'm going to try to be really short. This term was brought by Kimberly Crochet, who defines intersectionality as a framework that examines how various forms of social stratification, such as race, gender, class, and others, overlap and intersect, leading to a unique experience of oppression and discrimination. This is really important because intersectionality for non-status refugee and immigrant women is reflected in and is interconnected in all of aspects of our lives. We are dealing with many things and many processes at the same time. We might be dealing with immigration, we might be dealing with the justice system, we might be dealing with housing, we might be dealing with employment, we might be dealing with many things and processes that maybe other women who are already citizens or sorry to say like this, white women will not experience. And many people say that's why this lady who created the term was saying that many times they say you are as equal as discriminated as a white woman, and you can be equally discriminated as an immigrant man, but it's not true because we have to face it double the discrimination, double the racism, double the negligence, and double or triple everything you want to call it. I just want to call all of the practitioners and organizations to beg you to adopt an intersectional lens in your work and to support immigrant better. Also, to reflect how the practices can evolve to be more inclusive and sensitive to the complexities of our experiences. I know it might sound contradictory, but all of those descriptions that I say about me, whatever it was, my culture, my age, they might have an impact on my life and my family, but they don't define me. I am more than that. I am Monica. I am a human with needs, feelings, dreams, hopes, thoughts, opinions, complexities, contradictions. I am most importantly in constant change and learning. And only that, I'm healing every day. The only thing I want to talk about is to be flexible and compassionate. I cannot share all of this, but if you can look for a video, it's Brené Brown's called Brené Brown on empathy, and it's it on YouTube. And she's talking about empathy. Empathy is not saying, well, I don't know, I'm sad, but at least you have a house. My partner left, but at least you have your children. And I understand that many people don't know how to deal with that, especially some service providers. They feel awkward, or they want to help you, or they don't know how to react. But please just be open to listen, be open to believe us, be open not to judge, be open to be honest with us, and don't try to impose your beliefs or opinions in us. There's another video that you can watch. I can send you the information later about how many people, especially non-status refugee immigrant women, they are pressured and they are over and over told, like, move on, forgive, do this, do that, or even I'm a big believer and I practice now mindfulness, but at the beginning, and sorry to say like that, when somebody was telling me, oh, just practice yoga or just do meditation, I wanted to punch them in the face. I was like, this is what I'm feeling. Meditating is not gonna go away. So it helped me through therapy. It helped me doing many things, but it took me time. And I know that service providers and I know organizations, they have time, and I know they have limited time and limited resources. But we are humans, and we cannot heal in a month. We cannot heal in 3 months. So we just need time, and please bear with us. So pretty much that will be what I want to share with you today. And please just be mindful, be empathetic, and be sensitive that we are full of identities, and you cannot just define us with one word or 2 words. We are more than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, for all of you sharing all your experiences and thoughts. And now we would like to move on to program improvements. And I don't want to be repetitive here, and I have some part that I would like to highlight. And then Amal also, she will just put the last words about our presentations in terms of, around these themes. And now we heard a lot of times, the intersectionality, as Tuğçe mentioned, and Carolina, Sharvin, all of you, Monica. In theory, it's good, but do we really practice intersectionality? And what are the also barriers that we cannot practice into intersectionality when we support, when we provide also services to those survivors? Now, going back to the streamlined services, of course, we can talk about that, the lack of the intersectional approach they don't use. And also, most of the time, the survivors, they find themselves being bounced around and from one service to another, and also not acknowledging their other identities. And all of that just intersect to each other when they also experience domestic violence, intimate partner violence here. But their work didn't start in Canada. They always want to scream about that. That's why service providers, when they provide any services to them, first of all, it has to be centralized, as we heard from all peer champions, and then understand their layers of experiences, shape also around the migration, pre and post migration, and also their back home country experiences, their personal life, and the life is here. And the immediate solutions, the streamlined services, they always only provide crisis intervention or counseling or shelters, maybe for a while, just, to provide the safety. Unfortunately, we know that most of the shelters are full. And now the city opened the hotels. It's not safe for them also. And the mental health, it's in a crisis, and they can't just, there is a huge, huge, huge waiting list. And then talking about that, okay, the personal solutions, as Monica mentioned, do yoga, breathe exercises, whatever. And going back to the men who are abusers, how we can also involve them to this process. This is another problem always. We need to think about it. Is our criminal justice system really respond what's happening to those in these communities and for NSRI women, and also talking about those men behaviors? Is it really the solution only to punish them? And that's why also we need to think about that. Some solutions around transformative justice solutions. We need to also think about that man must be the part of the solution, and it means also creating programs for men. We always heard from our peer champions. I'm also coordinating another project, which is Neighborhoods, Families, and Friends, educational campaign for raising awareness about gender-based violence in different communities. This is the only narrative always comes back to us. Why you are giving this training to us as a woman? We know what does it mean financial violence, what does it mean emotional violence, and all of that, but why men are not involved to those trainings? And that's why I think addressing the harm in a way that promotes healing and accountability and the long-term changes, we really need to also involve men in those programs that I want to mention here. And these transformative justice approaches, maybe some of you find that it's very radical, it's very, it's not doable, it's kind of a dream, utopia, something like that. But we know that, especially talking about the indigenous way of transformative justice solutions, they are trying to implement. Why can't we take it as a model? Why it doesn't work for us? We really need to think about that. And then to think about not to punish, maybe rehabilitate, maybe allowing them to address the root causes of their behavior: patriarchy, poverty, colonialism, racism, imperialism, capitalism, all of that, and actively make them participate in healing with their families and the communities. And this is the one I want to stress in my part. And as I mentioned, I don't want to be repetitive, but at the end of the day, yes, what is important here, holistic support and inclusivity, and using those approaches, and also let those programs to be survivor-led. Those survivors can shape those policies. They can make an impact. They can change the policies. They are the only one. We can't just, talk or decide something on behalf of them, sitting in our rooms, sitting in our homes right now because of the remote work. But they are the one have lived experiences guiding us, that we had a chance today to listen to them. And now I want to just only close this session, just listen to them. Then start to think how we can support them, how we can provide some services for those providers. I want to end here. Then Amal also, she will also talk about which is our approach for our project, for 5 years project. Believe me, it wasn't easy. It is still continued process using this approach, survivor-led approach, and how we can really implement. That's why this toolkit extremely helpful to understand and to implement how we can use survivor-led approach for fighting against gender-based violence, unfortunately, not ending yet. Thank you. Amal?
Yes, hi everyone, and thank you for having me. As also, I very appreciate the chance for me to talk about this topic, especially because for me as a peer service provider, for far too long, the way services are provided has created a divide between those offering support and those receiving it. While this might not be intentional, it's often result in reinforcing the victim narrative, where survivor, particularly women, are seen only through the lens of their trauma. And this perpetuates the sense of powerlessness and stereotype that overtook their resilience and their capacity to advocate for themselves. At the same time, the discussion around the gender-based violence frequently misses the mark when it comes to non-status refugee and immigrant community. Harmful stereotype and the misconception persists, leading to the distorted understanding of the real issue this community face. What we see is that many of the complex reality in their life, such as systemic oppression, economic instability, racism, and xenophobia, are not fully understood or addressed. These factors compound the challenges survivors face and often exacerbate the violence in their lives. This brings me to the importance of adapting the survivor-led, and we talk all about and survivor-centered approach rather than imposing the solution on survivor. We need to integrate their voices into the discussion. So we believe that they are the experts in their own experience, and this is crucial for the unique challenges faced by NSRI survivor are recognized and directly addressed. When survivor voices are centered in this approach, the support become more relevant and effective, and that's we working for as a service provider. In my work as a service provider and being a peer champion in this project, I have witnessed the firsthand the transformative impact on this on such approach. One great example is the Prevent talked about is the Building Leadership Capacity Project, which goes beyond traditional support system by ensuring that the peer champion program is both survivor-led and survivor-centered. This project actively challenge the traditional dynamic we often see in GBV services, where survivors are positioned solely as a recipient of help, unfortunately. And one of the most powerful outcomes of the survivor-centered approach it's the solidarity foster among survivors. When they come together, they form connection, which is very important, and the network of support that extend beyond the immediate crisis. This sense of belonging is incredibly empowering for them. It is reinforced that they are not alone in their struggle, and it reminds them that together, yes, they can challenge the systemic barriers and often stand in their way. They can advocate for themselves and for broad social changes. But it's not just about the policy, the policy or program. It's about honoring survivor journeys and dismantling the traditional divided between services provided and those we serve. We have to believe that they have the knowledge and strength to lead and to advocate for and inspire the changes. Their voices are essentially in shaping the response to gender-based violence that are truly effective, inclusive, and culturally sensitive, which is very important. This survivor-led approach helps us move away from seeing survivors as merely victims, instead of recognize them as agents of changes. And I think that's for my topic, and I believe that's for all of us. It's very important to look for those key points that really empower women and give them a chance to have to lead their journey for better chance.
Thank you, Amal. Now we want to end just when we truly listen and elevate their perspectives, survivors. Then we can ensure that our responses to gender-based violence are reflective of the real needs of these communities, the NSRI women and their communities. Thank you so much. Now we are almost 10 minutes late, and we need to open our small group works and also breakout rooms. Nisaba will explain us how we proceed this part. Nisaba?
Yes, just give me 1 second. Okay. Hello, everyone. Now we're going to move to our next activity, which is the small group work. So we will divide participants into 7 different breakout rooms where we will discuss some of our guiding questions. I'll put the guiding questions in the chat. It's also should be displayed to you on our shared screen, but I'll make sure to put it in the chat, and then also each breakout, so each participant can have access it, so you can discuss with your group. Also, so each room will be facilitated by each room will be joined by one of our peer champions who are with us on the call. We will also will be also one of our OCASI team members present with you in each room to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Please take this opportunity to engage with the group, share your insights, and ask questions. We will come back together after the breakout sessions. We are planning to come back at 3:10, so we'll have about 25 minutes for our breakout rooms, and then we will share together some of the ideas, and we'll open it for a Q&A sessions. Now I'm going to start by opening the breakout rooms, and then you should also be seeing a prompt of the breakout room, so please join it when you have it.
The facilitator who wants to just report back with at least one main point, then we can move on. And we will also share with you our summary later, but I can't just promise very soon. I think we need to process all these report backs and also, digest all your ideas in breakout rooms. And we would like to also summarize our sessions and also share with the public later on as part of the knowledge mobilization plan of this project. And we will also inform you about in-person GBV conference, which will be held on January. We will also use that space to share all our thoughts, ideas that we shared today. Thank you again. And maybe we can just start, Nisaba.
Yes, so thank you again for all of your participation with our breakout room discussion. Now I think we can open it for the rest of 10 minutes for any, if you want to share any of your feedback, any of the insights, or any of questions that you might have from the discussion that happened in the breakout room or from our presentations earlier. So please, if you want to participate, if you can kindly put the electronic hands up, or you can share some of your questions and feedback in the chat as well, as it's open now for all participants. Thank you.
I think from our group, Matt is going to be speaking on behalf of our group. So
Please.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the questions that has been provided to us, the first question was, what can we do as a service providers that will foster a safe, respectful, person-centered practices? We were talking about like intersectional lens, like culture sensitive and racial sensitive, considering all the circumstances like location, gender, sex, age, cultural, etc. Gather info from different communities about the community lived experience somehow. Collecting data for like by doing focus groups, qualitative and quantitative. At the same time, the needs assessment is crucial, and the response to those who are in need. Following up with the service providers who we refer these clients to, that to have the feedback from them to know how we can tailor our services better to be more responsive to the needs assessment that we got. The second question was, what kinds of services and supports do you think gender-based violence survivors who are from migrant communities need. We were talking about understanding their background, culture differences, and how they came from different parts of the world. At the same time, if we offer like something more of, one second, I think there is something wrong with the notes. Oh yeah. So how we can provide, like we can provide a software or platform that it's confidential, that we can store case notes on it and everything, so providers review it and don't kind of trigger the clients or the individuals with the words that we put there, because we are already aware of that triggers. And at the same time, provide reviews to clients instead of asking the clients. Identifying triggers and developing a safe escalation strategies to avoid triggering the clients to have this this trauma back to them. We can improve that by doing staff trainings, for example, trainings on cross-cultural and SGBV and AOP and SO and SOGS, as we call it. Provide an overview for the individual on how the session will go if they are coming to our office, for example, or they're coming for our session. Providing them with an overview how this session will be going, just to set the realistic expectations for both sides, like us as service providers and them as clients. At the same time, being flexible and adaptable for each case and case by case
Thank you.
basis. Should I continue or?
I think we need to move on to hear other voices as well here,
Okay.
Matt, if you don't mind. But we
Sure,
really
no
love
problem.
to hear. And we will also have our, you had also note takers, and we will also review all the, your ideas from each room. I want to add something here, adding to your point in terms of the cultural sensitivity and racial sensitivity trainings. And we also mentioned in our group, it shouldn't be on the paper. It should be really into the real practice, that we also mentioned about that. And another part is opening settlement services to more racialized service workers. It also opens more dialogue doors for the survivors as well. And adding to this point that we want to also not only just giving kind of cultural sensitivity, just work with the people are coming from those communities who are also service providers. Sometimes they can be also GBV survivors. I think the settlement service that's definitely needs this shift to change only working with, the white man, white women, and for white women. No, it's not the case here. And that's why it's opening the racialized settlement workers to the sector. It's very important. And also well-being of racialized service providers. Also, it's really important at this point when they support GBV survivors. Thank you. This is also the main points of our group, that we have Asma, Esther, Maria, and Svetlana. Thank you. If I miss someone, please forgive me. And Sharvin. Thank you. Who else next? And I just want to be very quick. I'm really sorry. I know this is the worst part for every time. It's virtual.
Yeah, I think Carolina you have your hand up.
Yeah,
Yes,
Carolina.
I have my hands up. Sorry. I feel like every time I talk, I'm on a different background because it is a lot going on today. But yeah, so I wanted to, hearing what you guys are saying, I also had a similar idea about what can you do, to be person centered as a service provider. We talked about, accessing some type of funds and things to make institutions rescue ready, because I talked about the the importance of being able to rescue victims right away, because when you have this all kinds of like victims from a spectrum and everything, if institutions are not ready to hold this person down the moment that they find a way to flee or get away from situations, that might be your last chance. You don't know if this person can come back tomorrow, next week, the other day. You don't know what type of risk this person is feeling, is going through or fleeing from, that will guarantee that, oh, you know what, tomorrow we might have a bad no, we need to be rescue ready. We can't miss people. If they knock your door, you need to be ready to open. That's what I would say, first of all. And second of all, is that thinking about like our technological resources nowadays, and we talked about the need of having, you know, more ethnicity and more inclusive diversity among service providers and etc. And you know, not one size don't fit all kind of thing. The only thing I see is that would be great if we can take advantage of technology and create some sort of like pool of professionals, like a system, a unified system. Say that a unified system throughout like the city, for example, that service providers of all backgrounds and abilities and languages, because if they can speak so and so language, whatever, just and then we can institutions could access these people and make them let's call them life coaches, because I was thinking about saying rehabilitation coaches, because since we know one size doesn't fit all, you need to know what exactly people need to, you know, start taking steps on their own again. And so it'll be very interesting to have something that privileged people have that's called career coaches or life coaches or so and so whatever coaches, you know. So if we can have a way of creating a pool of professionals throughout the city with different, you know, characteristics and things that we can just call on this person once you have a client that fit into this criteria. You don't need to spend so much money and time on training your 5 people staff on 3,500,000 different subjects and cultures, because everything, you know, there we can only do so much, you know, we can only hold so much information as well. So instead of spending so much money like, you know, training 5 people, you spend so much money on a technology that you can create a pool online, some sort of cloud, that you can register professionals from all corners of the city that with different characteristics and specialties and things that they can offer that better match your current client. And then you can have this person come help out and you strategize on a life plan to, you know, start again type of thing.
Thank you.
I would say that.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you so much. And we have 3 minutes left. Maybe we can only extend for 5 minutes. I'm really, really sorry about that. Who would like to just add some points about their breakout rooms? I see Metin. Then did I miss anyone here? Okay, Metin. And
I know
sorry,
very
first
much.
Amina, then Metin. I'm sorry, Metin, because Amina first. Yeah, Amina.
No problem. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Our team echoed very much what had been mentioned earlier, and also we spoke additionally about the importance of providing interpretation, and you know, the language barrier is a huge barrier that can stand between communication when the survivors would like to express their cases. There was also a mention of, just like what has been mentioned before, having a body of 4 NSRI women who are facing gender-based violence within the OCASI, let's say, or within the body that helps immigrants in general. And this body would be the centralized place where all referrals go to and all the resources would be found in, rather than having the clients or survivors going from one place to another. There was another idea of, there was a mention of not to treat survivors as units or cases or, you know, problems to be solved, but then we need to have to show empathy and get the proper training. Service providers should have the proper training to listen and be a good listening ears, rather than just treating them as problem that needs to be solved. Also, there was the importance of being inclusive and in conversation, and having a proper needs assessment for specific for the gender-based women or people who are facing gender-based violence, and having to normalize this topic over our social medias and talking about this in publicly and on our websites, and doing group sessions to inform youth about this problem, to prevent rather than just solve. This is pretty much all. I tried to be very fast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amina. Metin?
I'm also gonna be very fast, but I ensure people who were in the breakout rooms, everything is written down and your voices here, and it will be in the report. Very quickly, for the first question, it was mentioned that ask people what they need, be transparent, explain possibilities, all the consequences, consider survivor status, be mindful of the language barriers if needed, provide interpreters, include immigrants who experience gender-based violence into the decision-making mechanism. For question 2, very quickly, build trust, ensure the confidentiality. And for question 3, the main idea was advocacy at the policy level. We need more resources to offer more holistic support. Shelter, mental health services, for example, shelters are not safe for gender-based violence survivors. So technically, to be able to support them, we need resources out there available to us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Metin. By the way, we will also put the evaluations, as we know, as program runner all the time, service providers, we need to also evaluate our work. Please just also make sure about the fill out the form would be really, really helpful for us to also, organize our next or future work. Thank you. And who else next would like to add any point? Maybe I miss.
I don't see any hands so far, so I think we're good.
Are we good?
Yes. So I just want to thank everyone for joining today. Thank you for your amazing participation. As part of the group breakout room, there was an amazing discussion and a lot of great insights. I want to thank everyone for joining and participating. As Berivan mentioned, and as you can see from the chat, we've shared the link to our evaluation form. Please spare some time just to fill it in and share with us your feedback on what are some of the things that we can improve as a team, and maybe what are some of the topics that you are looking to be discovered also on as from our team. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you.
And I want to say also, please acknowledge again and celebrate our peer champions' extremely valuable work for over 5 years. They have been with us, and I believe they will also continue to do unfortunate work in their community, at the sector, wherever they are. I think it's so important to acknowledge them. And we heard today the power of hearing from those people, the most impacted, and the power that people organize and feel the community. I think this is so important that they share the space. We have better understand to address the gender-based violence, the community building, and also listening to the survivors. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. It was extremely insightful and lovely to have you all here. Doris, would you like to just say also something before we leave? We don't want to leave you, you see.
No, thank you. It was great. And I have to say, all the peer champions, their presentations I thought were incredible. And that, this is the kind of stuff we've been privileged to listen to for over a year. And I guess just to underline, a lot of the information is reflected in the guide if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, thank you all, and have a great rest of the day, and talk to you soon and meet you soon in our virtual or in person, any other future work or events. Hi again. Bye.